I had a dream that I was replaced by a diverse woman.
Oh, not again.
But somebody said, who's playing Snow White, Ben or Brett? I can't even tell. Never heard that joke before.
They were taking all my favorite people and replacing them with diverse women complaining about the patriarchy.
Rachel Zegler's meltdown is making waves after South Park took a direct shot at Disney's so-called woke agenda and crushed it in the process. No one should be shocked. South Park has a long-standing reputation for exposing the ridiculous extremes of woke culture. Disney's controversial Snow White remake, it was practically begging to be roasted. And now it seems like Rachel Zegler, Disney's handpicked Snow White, just caught wind of it all. Rumor has it, she's not just upset, she's absolutely livid about the parody and the growing backlash surrounding her role. South Park aired this iconic episode a year ago, and its title alone sent a bold message that couldn't be ignored. True to form, South Park didn't pull any punches. They flipped beloved characters like Cartman, Stan, Butters, and Kenny into adult women of color. It was a crystal clear jab at Disney's recent trend of reworking classics, swapping characters, and tossing tradition aside, all in a bid to cater to modern audiences. And what happened next? Let's just say it was
Disney, have you ever considered that your fairy tales have actually stood the test of time because they are always relevant?
But the roasting didn't end there. It was a scathing takedown of everything critics have been saying about Disney's modern remakes. And Snow White? Oh, it's at the center of it all. Casting Rachel Zegler, who's Latina, set off a firestorm of debate. After all, the original Snow White was literally named for her skin as white as snow. And now, Rachel's casting has blown up into a major controversy. Fans have pointed out that the connection just doesn't add up anymore, and honestly, they've got a point. But it's not just the casting that's left people scratching their heads. Disney has gone all in on rewriting the story, stripping away the very elements that made it a timeless classic. Romance, completely erased. The prince, vanished into thin air. And the seven dwarves, Disney's waved goodbye to them too. It's like they're determined to make this story unrecognizable, and people are definitely taking notice. And Rachel? Let's just say she hasn't exactly won over fans. In an interview, she came across as dismissive, even entitled when discussing her role. She openly criticized the original Snow White, calling it outdated and problematic. At one point, she even joked about the on-set snacks being apple-flavored, as if that were some kind of personal jab. It's no surprise fans are furious. They feel like she's tearing down a beloved fairy tale to justify this revamped version that doesn't even feel like Snow White anymore. And it gets even worse. Rachel's comments about the prince caused quite the uproar. She made it clear that romance is off the table, saying, "It's not about the love story at all." She even joked about cutting all his scenes entirely.
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Whether or not she meant it as a joke, her tone didn't sit well with anyone. Fans aren't just upset about the drastic changes, they're upset about how those changes are being framed, as if the original story was flawed or inferior. And don't even get me started on the seven dwarves. Disney didn't just tweak them, they erased the entire concept. Snow White's bond with the dwarves was at the heart of the original story, and now it's been completely stripped away. It's yet another example of how far Disney is willing to go to rewrite its classics, and fans aren't having it. If you're remaking a film that defined generations, shouldn't the goal be to celebrate its legacy, not erase it? This isn't the first time Disney has faced backlash for reimagining its classics. Remember The Little Mermaid? Casting Halle Bailey as Ariel stirred up plenty of controversy, but the film still managed to preserve much of its original magic. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for Snow White. While The Little Mermaid stuck to its roots despite the casting debates, Snow White has undergone such extreme changes that fans feel like Disney is catering to an agenda instead of creating something genuine. Add Rachel's tone-deaf interviews into the mix, and it's no wonder fans are calling the whole situation unacceptable. Naturally, South Park didn't miss the opportunity to pounce. They've always been masters of exposing society's absurdities, and this episode took things to a whole new level. By race and gender swapping their own iconic characters, they delivered biting satire that highlighted just how far these decisions can go, and how ridiculous they might seem when pushed to the extreme. And let's be honest, South Park doesn't care who they offend. Disney's not the first to face their wrath, and they definitely won't be the last. The show has a long history of calling out Disney and slamming the studio's current direction. With this episode, they've made it clear they're not holding back anytime soon. While South Park mocked plenty of studios for pandering to so-called woke audiences, it's crystal clear that Disney, and more specifically the Snow White remake, was the prime target. After all, Disney has doubled down on its casting choices and story overhauls, and South Park wasn't about to let them get away with it unscathed. So, what's the real takeaway from that episode? It's simple. Changing a character's ethnicity or gender in an existing story isn't real diversity, especially when it doesn't effectively deliver on the so-called message of inclusivity. And what immediately comes to mind? Snow White. South Park didn't delve into cultural or ethnic complexities, but Disney practically invited criticism with how they've handled Snow White in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion. For many fans, this is where the real frustration lies. It's not about opposing inclusivity, it's about authenticity. And right now, that's what's missing. Rachel Zegler's involvement has only fueled the fire. Fans can't move past how dismissive she's been toward the original story. Instead of showing enthusiasm for her iconic role, her interviews often come across as contempt for what Snow White once represented. By supporting the removal of the love story, sidelining the prince, and turning Snow White into some sort of warrior archetype, Rachel has alienated nearly everyone who cherished the original. It's no longer the Snow White people grew up loving, it's a completely unrecognizable version that feels forced rather than heartfelt. This is exactly why South Park's satire hits so hard. They show just how empty it feels when studios prioritize surface-level changes over meaningful storytelling. Casting Rachel Zegler as Snow White doesn't come across as a thoughtful decision. It feels more like a marketing stunt aimed at racking up diversity points. But instead of winning fans over, it's turned into a full-blown PR disaster. Rachel herself has become a lightning rod for ridicule, and fans of the beloved classic are left completely alienated. Of course, this isn't South Park's first time dragging Disney. Back in 2022, they aired The Streaming Wars, another episode that took shots at the entertainment giant. And who could forget their jabs at Star Wars after Disney's acquisition, or their infamous depiction of Mickey Mouse in earlier episodes? Disney isn't just a regular target, they're practically a recurring character in South Park's universe of satire. Unsurprisingly, Disney doesn't seem too happy about being in South Park's crosshairs. Rumor has it they're trying to smooth things over with the show's creators to prevent more episodes like this from airing. And it's not hard to see why. Disney has spent decades building an empire based on meticulous public perception, but South Park's raw, unfiltered critique is a direct blow to their carefully curated image, and possibly their bottom line. For fans, this isn't about pushing some so-called woke propaganda, it's about respecting the stories they've cherished for generations. Snow White's tale became iconic for a reason, and her love story was a core part of that magic. By stripping it away completely, Disney isn't making the story modern. They're taking away what made it meaningful in the first place. Fans aren't demanding a carbon copy of the past. They just want adaptations that preserve the heart and soul of the original, while still feeling fresh and relevant. So, where do you stand on all this controversy? Do you think Disney missed the mark, or are they on the right track? Let us know in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe for more on the latest celebrity news and all the behind-the-scenes drama. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.